Greetings, Tenno. Today we're going to be diving headfirst into a heated debate about why the first Descendant was once dubbed the Destiny Killer, but instead upon its launch it was more heavily compared to Warframe. This was a huge misstep, as you will soon see. If you want to take a shot at the king that is Warframe, you better not miss. I am your host, Vault Zero. I make daily Warframe content, and I'm going to dive into the reasons that Warframe succeeded where the first Ascendant failed and ultimately faded into obscurity. We're going to jump right into what I think is probably one of the most important aspects, and that is just Warframe's track record. Warframe has been around over a decade, perfecting its craft, adding a multitude of content and activities for players to enjoy. A lot of the game is just a love letter to the fan base and thanking them for their commitment for sticking with the game for so much time. Whereas the first Descendant came out, and it came into the gate swinging it, liked to mimic Warframe quite a bit, but the problem was it didn't have the content to back it up. Copying its modding system is one thing, and I'll give you credit where credit's due. It did allow for quite a bit of build crafting, and the weapon design in the game was, in First Descendant, that is absolutely stellar. I think I've seen some of the best weapon skins in recent memories in any game added to the First Descendant, so that was top notch on their part. However, they relied really heavily on kind of what I like to call like Diablo gameplay loop, where they didn't have a lot of content to play. They just kind of wanted you to play the same content repeatedly on varying difficulties. And I think that's a trap that Anthem fell into as well. If you all remember back to Anthem, I was a game a lot of people were really excited for and got a lot of praise early on, but it was very quickly found out and realized by the player base and gaming media that there was just no content there. That they did the same thing where they said, okay, well, we're going to introduce these handful of missions and you play through them at your leisure with these varying difficulties. And I find that very rarely is that a recipe for success. You need to come out of the game, or out of the gate, with a plan you need to have early game, mid game, and definitely late game, because you're going to have your hardcore players that are going to want to stick around and have a reason to play after they can finish the campaign in these games. And that's something that the First Ascendant lacks. We're going to move on to what I think is the second biggest reason, and I think some may argue even the biggest reason, and that was the difference in monetization between Warframe and the First Descendant. Because make no mistake, the First Descendant failed more than anything because it tried to mimic a game that surpasses it in every way. When you look at the First Descendant's monetization, it was heavily criticized for its predatory style. The amount of grinding that you had to do if you weren't willing to crack open your wallet was criminal. And early on, I covered the First Ascendant when it launched, and I covered it for about a month and a half, and I was the biggest defender of the First Ascendant. I didn't think that the system was that predatory, I didn't think it was that bad. I just thought people had bad luck when it came to getting drops. But then I saw some of the charts, some of the drop rates and loot tables of things, and it was absolutely egregious. And then you flip to games like Warframe, where everything's fair. Yes, you can open up your wallet for convenience if you'd like to, but oftentimes you'll find that if you target farm an item, it's not going to take you more than an hour or two to get that particular item. I'll give you an example. I was, right now I'm farming for the Mecha mod set on Orb Valis, and I farmed it for about an hour, and I got two of the four mods. It's not, if you put your mind to it, it's not hard to do, and Warframe's economy is just second to none when it comes to platinum and the ability that you can trade items to other players. You can trade platinum and buy and sell items to other players. No other game is like that. So when the first Descendant came out and said, hey, we have all this expensive loot, all this really nice looking loot, but you're going to have to really put your head down and grind for it. Some people, the hardcore players, were out there and excited for it. They're like, hey, I want more of a challenge than Warframe's going to provide, but they quickly realized that the grind was more unfair than it was challenging. Now, we're going to move on to, for me personally, the single biggest reason why Warframe eclipsed the first Descendant, because upon launch, I was super excited for the first Descendant. I played the heck out of it for about a month and a half, like I said, until I became disillusioned with it. But we're going to dive into world building and sound design. Sound design is a bit unfair because I don't think there's very rare games that can touch Warframe in that aspect. Their sound design is and always has been absolutely phenomenal. But when it comes to world building, I'm going to show you a trailer about how seriously the first Descendant takes its world building. And I will warn you, it's pretty cringe, and it's pretty hard to get through. But yeah, tits right away. This is one of these things that used to piss me off so bad about the game because it had so much potential. But they're more worried about appeasing to these, thirst traps and these horny boys and teenage boys that want to play the game and look at tits and whatnot. Whereas they should have been focused on gameplay, narrative direction, competent storytelling. Instead, all they want to appeal to is these cheap cash grabs. I actually did a detailed video about this. It was the last video I did when I covered the first Descendant, and so many of their fans tried to rip into me, and I was like, no, man, I'm right. This is all that they're interested in. They have this opportunity to create something great, and they absolutely squander it. I'm going to show you a trailer now of what the game could have been. Now, I'm not super up to date with everything that's going on in the first Descendant at the moment, but this is on the Twitter page. I assume it is a trailer for a new character, and thematically, it looks awesome. It tells a story. It can get you invested in this character to learn more about her character and her story, and it's what the game should have been about to begin with. But unfortunately, it just doesn't go that direction. They'll dip their toes in there, but they won't continue. They won't commit to that direction. I don't know how many of you guys are OG Warframe players, but some of my favorite things to do back in the day were to watch the original trailers for the original frames. A lot of the Prime trailers are really cool. I think they're better than the original trailers, but there's a certain nostalgia that the original trailers for the original frames bring. And I think with the introduction of Warframe 99, it really put the final nail in the coffin when it came to the first Descendant, because the one thing that I feel the first Descendant had over Warframe is, since we're just kind of frames, and you see your drifter and your operator, but you don't really see them unless you use transference. So all you really see is the machine, and I don't feel, prior to 1999, that a lot of frames had their own personalities. But 1999 really introduced, with the proto frames, some personality to different frames, and I know we're having even more proto frames coming out, so it's going to be even more personality, so even more frames, and I think a lot of people can get behind that. And like I said, that's one thing that the first Descendant did well, that had personality for their characters. But now that the titan of the industry, Warframe, is doing the same thing and doing it much better, there's not a whole lot that the first Descendant can do to compete. Which is crazy because, like I said, the game had so much promise initially. People saw the first trailers for it and they said, oh man, this is the Destiny killer. And I don't really play Destiny anymore, but I'm going to stop you there. Destiny itself is the Destiny killer. I don't think there's going to be any games that come out that kill Destiny quicker than Destiny. It's going to kill itself, if that makes any sense. But it was a huge mistake, and I understand the ideas of taking inspiration from other games. I know they took inspiration from Destiny, as well as they took it from Warframe. But if you're going to try to go toe-to-toe in that genre with Warframe. You need to actually do it well and prioritize what is important and what will lead to your game's long-term success. I preached it so many times in my previous video for the first Descendant. You can't rely on tits and ass and clickbait to guarantee your game longevity, because people will get bored of seeing that. They will realize that, hey, outside of these skins, there's no content. There's no depth to this story. Whereas you can come play Warframe, and you can even get some of those. You're not going to get to the extent that the first Descendant has, but there are some skins and some frames that has some cheeks. You know what I'm saying? They have some cheeks. But the difference is Digital Extremes can throw those in there for fun. They can sprinkle them in there, knowing how the fan base is, because they've already got a kick-ass story. They've already got an amazing soundtrack. The audio for their weapons sounds phenomenal. It's not like the first Descendants, where the gunfire sound makes me physically angry because it is so fucking annoying. They have excellent narrative direction. They always keep you guessing on where the narrative is going to go. They introduce, and this is one of the most important parts, memorable characters. How many memorable characters can you guys name from the first Descendant? I think the only character I can name from the first Descendant is Bunny. Real quick, if you guys are enjoying the video, you learned anything, definitely smash that like button. Perhaps inside of the channel. Love to have you guys here. Like I said, I make daily Warframe content. But back on subject, when you look at Warframe, we have the Lotus, we have Ballas, we have Arthur, we have Clem, we have Thursby. We have memorable characters, unlike the first Descendant, and that is a shame. Ultimately, this needs to be a learning experience from any titles that want to enter the looter shooter genre, to put quality content over cheap cash grabs. And you would think that would be self-explanatory, but here we are in 2025 and companies are still making this mistake. I'm just going to end it with this note here. There is proof in the pudding. When you look at the first Descendants player count, and you look at Warframe's current player count, Warframe has a current player count almost 50,000 daily, whereas the first Descendant has not even 9,200 daily. It is faded into irrelevance, and I think it's well deserved. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and you guys' viewership is always more than enough for me. I hope you all have a great day, and I will catch you guys in the stars.